Larry, and thank you everybody for being here. The testimony that I presented in January to the Crimes Commission was related to the evidence found in the Downing Street memos. This evidence was connected to count 1 in the first indictment on the wars of aggression, and that reads, "The Bush administration authorized a war of aggression against Iraq." No one seriously disputes that the war on Iraq was launched without authorization by the UN Security Council and without the justification of acting in self-defense against an attack on the United States by Iraq. President Bush has said repeatedly that Iraq had nothing to do with the attacks of September 11, 2001, and no other attack by Iraq has been alleged. So count 1 of the indictment would be provable without any particular evidence, and would be provable even were all of the pre-war claims by the Bush administration proved true. Sadly, the claims the Bush administration made to justify the war not only would not have justified it if true, but were intentionally dishonest. The evidence to back up this statement is overwhelming. We are not dealing here with mistakes or incompetence. We are dealing with criminality. There can no longer be any doubt that the Bush administration did not experience a failure of intelligence, but rather a success of stupidity and arrogance. The Downing Street memos confirmed what we already knew from numerous sources. The Bush administration had determined to go to war by July of 2002, if not much earlier, and was lying to Congress and the public about its intentions. The Bush administration was focused not on war as a last resort, but on selling the war with false claims about ties between Iraq and September 11th and about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, which now even the Senate Intelligence Committee, chaired by a Republican, has exposed as premeditated lies. The U.S. Senate has not quite brought itself to calling these lies lies, but they have put the evidence out there. And the revelations in the Downing Street memo last year were considered old news by many in the media, which conveniently allowed them to refrain from saying these things aloud. But the Downing Street memos have turned out to be early smoking guns in what has grown into an inconveniently enormous arsenal. And most of the more recent smoking guns have hardly been displayed for public view at all. Just days before I testified to the commission in January, James Risen's book, State of War, revealed that what Sir Richard Dearlove had reported about U.S. intentions in the Downing Street memo, he had likely learned from a very good source, because he had attended a CIA MI6 summit at CIA headquarters across the river on Saturday, July 20th, 2002. During this day-long summit, Dearlove met privately with CIA head George Tenet for an hour and a half. This has yet to be reported in a single U.S. media outlet. Books are now the first as well as the last draft of history. I will discuss this evening the evidence that has come out this February, March, April, May, June. It's piling up. Every week we have a new smoking gun. In recent months, the evidence has continued to mount in great superfluity and redundancy, and memories of the certainty with which Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, and Rice declared Iraq to possess nuclear and other weapons has begun to fade. We're now told that they launched this war because Saddam Hussein might have someday developed weapons. But in that claim, of course, lies a confession to what the International Military Tribunal at Nuremberg called the supreme international crime, differing only from other war crimes in that it contains within itself the accumulated evil of the whole. That crime, of course, is the crime of aggressive war. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, David.